You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now. Aloha, my friends. How's it going on this Friday evening?
On Friday. I like it.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I gotta make
on a Friday. And that's my
headset. Sorry. Where's mine? Okay.
The one closer to you.
Nice. Now I could hear myself in my own ears.
Good. So happy you can hear yourself.
Why are you so hyped up today? What happened?
Lots of things happened today. The website wasn't working and we were going crazy.
It's on fire today, guys. Watch out.
Yeah, because I'm the one that's apparently in charge of all the website stuff. And when that doesn't go well, you know, it kind of goes nuts.
You're in charge of a lot of things.
Yeah,
cheers.
And I go crazy. So
sparkling water.
Kirkland.
Lemon
so here
flavored.
we are on a Friday. The reason why we're doing it on a Friday is because tomorrow, actually, we're going to be at a libertarian festival in New Jersey.
So it's a convention. It's like it's the local. It's the New Jersey arm of the Libertarian Party. Their convention, I believe. I think that's what we're walking into.
Oh, great! So we're just going to show.
Wait, don't you have the link? Show the link.
Where's the link? I didn't have it here. I don't know where it is. You know, because.
Oh, okay. Well, Dan O'Neill, if you search Dan O'Neill on Twitter. Yeah, so that's cool. That's an opportunity to get the word out on Monero. He invited us. We'll have a stand there. I don't know how many people are going to be there. It's at like a firehouse, right?
Yeah, it's at a firehouse in New Jersey, so it should be nice. We're going to try to do, I can't find him. Dan O'Neill? I cannot find him. Neil. Where? Can't really find him.
Okay. Where's my phone?
I don't know. I was busy making sure the website worked.
Okay. Yell so much, Jesus.
Well, you know.
Hold on. Let me readjust my volume.
I got used to
lower my volume.
Yeah, imagine me that has to listen to you every day when you have your interviews. For example, yesterday you had your Gate.io interview, which ended up being a solo interview because
it was an AMA where I AMA'd myself.
Yeah, it was actually pretty entertaining from my
perspective.
That
was kind of a disaster.
I didn't think so, actually.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was a little messy.
Well, it was a disaster because I was supposed to go on and do an AMA on Gate.io. They have like 1 million Twitter followers. They're an exchange. They've been around for a long time, which we didn't really know much about them. But they reached out to us because somebody there is a big Monero fan. And he reached out to us, asked me to come on and do a spaces with them to help, promote Monero and Monerotopia, which was really awesome, really nice of him. And he set it all up in Gate.io. They did it. But then when he tried to come up on stage, yeah, you found him, no?
No, that is not him. Keep talking.
Okay. He wasn't able to be created as a host. Like they weren't able to add him as a host. And Gate.io, that account wasn't, for whatever reason, they weren't used. I don't know who was running that account, but they weren't talking.
No, they weren't talking, and then they were messaging me.
So you had all these people coming into the space, and I was supposed to get interviewed, and it was just me. And like I was added as a speaker, but I wasn't even a host, so I couldn't add other people. It was a disaster. So I ended up just giving a like Monero 101 talk, which I really was not prepared for. Not that I would need to, but I just wasn't mentally prepared. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I could just start talking now. So that really it was kind of shitty, right?
Well, I mean, I don't think it was shitty.
But then I went back and listened to it this morning because I just thought it was so bad. I usually never go back and listen to any of my stuff just because number one, we don't really have time, and number two, it just kind of feels super cringy when you listen to it. At least
Imagine
when I
me,
listen to
I had
myself,
to listen to
I
it
feel bad for you
over
guys.
and over.
I just
You,
can't.
no, you should feel bad for me.
But I listened to it, and it was good. I got like it was a really good overview, I think, of Monero. Just talking about in terms of being the most unstoppable crypto, which is probably what I'll talk about tomorrow at the libertarian thing. If Cindy can find it, she can.
No, that's a,
Okay.
that's a technical.
So what else should we bring up?
The conference stuff, the updated conference stuff. We have new speakers.
Oh, we added a virtual ticket.
Yeah.
We have tons of speakers, guys, tons of projects involved. We added a virtual. If anybody wants to help us, the way you can most help us is
Please help.
by spreading the event, right? So it's like the party's together. Like the wedding is ready. Everything's been ordered. It's going to be kick ass. The only thing that can make it better is if we have like a real strong group of people down there. In terms of guests, right? So like the speakers are amazing, projects are amazing, VIPs, right? We sold out the VIP dinner, but I just want to get a few more like guests down there, right? A few more.
Yeah, a few more would be nice.
Although I also fear that we might have too many because we're going to be integrated in with the marketplace, and we're basically going to be open to the city, right? So people that like walk by, they're gonna just walk through. The way the event's set up is that it's like kind of pseudo public, so people can walk through and they could go through the marketplace. So we'll be organically pulling people in. So it definitely will feel, it will feel crowded. But I want to get some more Monero lovers down there. So help us spread the word. And if they can't attend, they could attend virtually. We added a virtual ticket. We're selling the virtual ticket for the same price as a general admission ticket.
But we prefer if you
mostly because I
down there.
prefer
It would be a lot more fun.
Yeah, mostly because we prefer you come in person. Although the virtual thing should be pretty successful too. Crypto Vigilante isn't running it this year. They ran it last year. They will be down there though in full force. We have Jeff Berwick. We added him as a speaker. Yeah, everybody knows Jeff Berwick. We have Raphael. We added him as a speaker as well. But Raphael won't be doing the live stream just because he's going to focus on his talk and all that stuff. And so we're handling that ourselves. Well, we have people helping us out with that. So that should be pretty cool. And we have this two stages, so people at home will be able to watch all the talks. They'll be able to participate in Q&A and do it all live during the conference. And we will, after the conference, we will post like all the content for free. Obviously, it's Monero talk after all, right? The goal is to get the information out. But we're also capitalists, and we're trying to keep this thing funded. It's a lot of expenses that go into this, guys. Like a lot, like they creep up fast, especially the reimbursements to all the speakers, and we got a ton of speakers. So it adds up fast.
Yeah, we got
so we're trying to finance it with the virtual ticket like we did last year. So it's just like, if we sell a bunch of them, it'll be another few $1,000s that could help us budget this conference, right?
Yep. It's growing, my friends. It's growing.
Yeah, we got Amir, we got Rachel Rose. Now, are they coming? I think they're coming down in person, right?
Yes, I will leave. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Look at it. It's beautiful. I haven't looked at the site in a while. We have Jessica. I don't know if
you're welcome. I've organized it like crazy.
Jessica will be giving the opening talk. She's a local from Mexico City. Jessica Ortega. She's the Monero queen on Twitter and in real life. Second, she'll be giving an intro talk, welcoming everybody to the city. So that's super cool. Who else we got?
Dr. Julian Loss.
Right. He's the one that just recently published a paper, right? Wait, can you click on it? I forget what his I can't read from here, by the way. So if you could read it.
Research group loss. It's critical infrastructures such as cellular networks, power grids, and public transport systems are becoming increasingly digitized. So
no, his paper.
Oh, his most recent publication.
Yeah.
State machine replication under changing?
Nah. Oh no, the blind. No, he did a study on Monero. But anyway, he's awesome. He'll be there. We got a bunch more. Anything else we need to bring up?
No, I don't believe so. I think that's really it.
But yeah, that's why we had to do the show tonight, Friday, because tomorrow, Saturday, we'll be at this libertarian thing. So yeah, if anybody's in the area, come on out. If you'll see it on my Twitter. I retweeted it. Right? Do we know the name of it? Do you know?
Yeah, the LP Libertarian
Convention
in
Jersey.
Jersey.
Dan O'Neill is the guy's name. You'll find it. You can't pull it up. There it is.
No, but it's not. It's the flyer.
Oh, so can you pull that up?
I'm trying to, but it's not. I can't share it there. It's on because it's on different window. All right, maybe I can.
Okay.
No, but it's gonna show everything. I'll try to pull it up in a little bit.
Okay.
Right now, I guess let's just move on to the price. Yeah.
Deep breaths.
It's been a nonstop day.
Deep breaths. Okay. Yeah, let's move on to price report.
Yeah, let's do that. Alrighty. The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Local Monero. Avoid using KYC exchanges. Buy and sell Monero directly for fiat, peer-to-peer. Hello, Bawdy. How do you do?
Hey, guys. Doing great.
Hey, buddy.
Thank you for joining Friday.
Yeah, sorry we had to switch it up.
No, it's fine. Sounds like you guys are going to have a good time at a libertarian conference. Hopefully spread the word of Monero.
Should be very cool. He's going to give me time to give a little talk, and then I think we're going to do some kind of roundtable. Should be good.
Do the libertarian, like the official Libertarian Party people, are they interested in Monero, or are they like just generically yay cryptocurrency?
Yeah, no, they're interested in Monero. So there's the Mises caucus took over the party. We were there when it happened, actually, at the National Libertarian Convention.
Nice.
Which was very cool. And we were speaking to people there, and they were expressing interest in Monero. And so they're very open to it. They're crypto, I guess, agnostic. Obviously, they're big Bitcoiners. But the Mises party itself is very pro crypto. And so they're not just like they know crypto, right? So they've found their way to Monero. I'll put it that way.
That's cool.
Respect Monero. They're trying to add it as a way to donate, I believe, but I don't know. They're having issues with that for some reason. But yeah, they're all about it. That's why they've reached out to us, asked to come talk about it. I think they're just trying to get the word out more now, which is very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I went to the Texas State Republican Convention in 2012 to try and elect Ron Paul, but our local convention, our county convention in Austin, this thing ended in a parking garage because we were at some church and we lost. Like they only had so long to do the convention, and they knew it was going to be contentious because they knew there was a bunch of Ron Paul people there. But so they didn't book it for long enough, and then they had church the next day, so we all voted to go finish this thing in the parking garage next door.
That sounds about right. That sounds like the Libertarian Party. Yeah, this was
the Republican Party, but probably all parties, I guess.
Oh, this is the Republican Party?
Yeah, this is 2012.
Oh, okay.
Travis County Convention.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome.
I actually have a video somewhere on YouTube where I recorded the whole thing on a tablet and I uploaded it on some old YouTube account that I have. It's not really that interesting, but just the way that everything went down was like, it was very eye-opening.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, tomorrow's is going to be in a fire department. It should be cool. It's going to be a nice group.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like fun. Probably the Libertarian Party is a little bit more fun than the Republican Party, I have to imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
The after parties are definitely better.
What I'm most impressed by with the Libertarian Party is just the focus on first principles, right? And like so many people like really study the philosophy behind all these concepts, right? Like I think your average Republican at the Republican convention, if you stopped and had tried to have a deep convo with them about like where their ideals are coming from. I mean, some of them, don't get me wrong, but like the vast majority of the Libertarian Party are really like focused and zoned in on that and spend a lot of time on that, which is very impressive. And it's one of the reasons why I have a lot of like admiration for them.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you think I know there was like some kind of accusations, or not accusations, but like them saying that who was the guy that they elected to run for president? I think it was 2016. The guy that made an Aleppo. He didn't know what Aleppo was, and that like ended his campaign basically.
Oh yeah, I don't know his name. I know the last one,
name.
Joe Jorgensen was the last.
The one before him.
Okay, yeah, I
forget his name.
Yeah.
Anyways, but like, so you think that generally speaking, like it's not compromised or anything overall. It's like the people, at least the people on the ground are pretty consistent.
Well, when you say compromise, what do you mean? Like, is there like a small cabal that's running the thing or something, or what do you mean?
No, like, so for example, I really wish I could remember the guy's name, who it was, but that was also the race where John McAfee was like the number 2 guy in the Libertarian Party to get the nomination, and instead it was the other guy.
Well, now with the Mises group in charge, they seem pretty I don't know, like pretty hardcore in their determination to be very true to libertarian values. Although, I mean, you talk to some people in the party, like Martha Bueno, I think isn't a big fan of them. But that's just like internal politics. But yeah, to answer your question, I think, I think they're pretty legit. They're I don't know. They're maintaining themselves pretty well. I mean, we'll see how they do as they grow, right? It's kind of like crypto, right? So
yeah,
they're like Monero, right? They're a small project. They're pretty much, the community is aligned. Although I shouldn't say that, right? Because it's different than other parties in that, given libertarian values, it's like they're kind of anti-establishment, right? And like they don't want to be necessarily a cohesive group at the end of the day, right? Because they want new ideas and new groups to be able to evolve out of the party. So it's like there are quite a few factions. But yeah, no, I think it's a healthy party. I think it's going to blossom in the next couple of years. I think it's really going to take off.
That's cool. I didn't know that the Mises Institute had taken over, but I mean, it's cool to see that there's some change there, and maybe they'll put up another John McAfee, but that's impossible because there's no other John McAfee.
Yeah, no, there's no replacement for that guy. But yeah, man, another big week, huh?
I guess so. To me, it seemed pretty calm. There didn't seem to be too much, like, nothing really caught my eye as being all that crazy.
It's a big week in terms of the broader markets, right? And like what's taking place.
Yeah, we had the FOMC meeting. Jay Powell got up and told everyone what's what. Nothing really too crazy came out of that. It was a 25 basis point rate hike, which is kind of what we talked about last week. They don't want to look totally ineffective, but neither do they want to like really give the market something to worry about. And of course, it was all the things that he said afterward that were really, typically, in almost all cases, those are the more important things. So really what we didn't see anything too crazy from him. He said, oh yeah, inflation, is still a problem. And you know what, let me go check. There was like 2 things that stuck out of my mind.
Those meetings are so funny because it's like he gives his little speech, right? And then the press just basically asks like the same question in like 20 different ways. They're just like, are you sure you're not gonna are you gonna raise it or lower it next time? Like that's all they want to know. So they try to ask it in 10 different ways. So
that, and like any hard questions that they really want to ask, they've got to phrase it in a way that sounds very dry, so they get invited back the next time.
Right, but his response is always the same. It's like, well, we'll look at the data, and it's the same response, just said in.
See, that's where I think that there actually is quite a lot said there, and in fact, when you learn how to read between the lines, like sometimes he'll say things, and you're like, man, if he was talking just as a regular person and not to the whole nation or to the whole world, he would say something in maybe an entirely different way. So, for example, back in, maybe it was October. He was talking about, oh, labor conditions are tightening and this and that, and there's not enough labor, and there's not enough workers beyond statistically, what we expect in our projections, blah, blah, blah. Sounds very dry. But the translation of that is, too many of you have mad gains from all the money that we printed. So now we got to pull it back to force some of you out of retirement and go back to work, you millennials. Something like that. I mean, I know I'm kind of embellishing there, but
no, I get it. You definitely, there's things to gather when you listen to him closely. It's just really funny, right? I mean, that just like sums up the fiat system. You got this like one guy that we're all trying to figure out, like, all right,
one man.
Yeah, what is he gonna do next?
The world waits.
Centralized, right? Jesus.
So the two big things that I took from this one is he said that they're done raising. He didn't say the word pause. It was interesting how he used like 2 sentences to say pause, but basically that they're done raising. He said maybe that they've got another 1 or 2 if they feel that they need to. And the other thing is that he believes the balance sheet expansion that we saw is temporary. So for example, let's go, this is the total assets of the Federal Reserve. We looked at this last week. It had bumped up here. We saw this week that it bumped up by like another 100 billion or something, but these are by and large 90-day loans, so they should end up reversing. So Jay Powell said that they believe that this balance sheet expansion is temporary. They also thought inflation was temporary, so right, who knows? But an interesting consequence of raising 25 points was what it did to the bond market, which I had pulled up, but where did it go? All right, I guess I have to find it again. Sorry about that, I guess.
No worries, no worries.
Here we go. Okay, so this is the chart that matters. There's 2 things here, actually. We'll talk about the yield curve inversion in a second, but so this step function right here that just happened, that was the Fed raising 25 basis points, and this white line was where we were last week, and this was the rate that people were borrowing from the Fed's discount window. And by window, we don't mean like a window of time. We mean like a window, like a teller window or like a desk, basically. So it's a facility that lends short term by the Federal Reserve to banks or to financial institutions. So what we talked about last week was interesting. So this dotted line represents the rate at which they were borrowing. And then these gray lines are the 3 and 6 month Treasury yields. So the fact that these yields were higher than what the Fed was lending, and the Fed was basically taking everyone's low yielding long-term debt as collateral, giving them par value for a 90-day loan, meant that institutions could just like get free money. They could put those bonds with the Fed, get money at a high, at this interest rate here, and then turn around and buy a short-term bond yielding at a higher rate. And that's just like, that's pure profit for them. So one thing that the raising the interest rate by 25 basis points did was take this dotted line and move it up. So now for this past week, for the most part, they haven't been able to do kind of the same thing. A little bit right here, but that's so small that really might not be much yield to be had. So that was kind of an important thing that happened in terms of like the nuance of yields. Now I'm definitely not an expert on this, so it's possible that I could be missing something. Maybe there's some other factors or some other fees that banks have to pay that sort of would hypothetically take this dotted line and maybe move it higher. But just from the plain look at it, to me, it looks like that was basically free money, and then most of that has ended now. And those are 90-day loans, so we should expect those to get paid back here. The other thing that was interesting over the past couple of weeks, this pink line is the yield curve inversion. So we've talked about this a number of times before, and the concern is when the yield curve inversion corrects back to normal, like it did here in 2008, and then it did the same thing back in 2001. Right here. So what we've seen is a big spike back to, I mean, it's still inverted overall, it's still inverted, but it's a lot closer to being not inverted now. So that's concerning. We'll have to watch that. Usually this is delayed by at least a few months. So, and the other thing too is like this could come right back down, but if it goes back into normal territory and then continues to go up, that could be a dicey sign. You might want to think about getting out of the markets or at least hedging your position. So that's like, to me, that was the big news this week that happened. And then kind of the other big news as of today, last night, is Monero has started to pump, going back to the top of its bear market resistance line. So our lovely stablecoin Monero Go to the short term.
Must have been our Gate.io spaces last night that really pumped the price.
That was it.
Definitely was that.
Actually, you know, I was listening to one of your the podcast with the Christian, the interview with I can't remember his name. I feel bad. I think we were friends on Twitter. Nick. I was listening to Nick, and the advertisement that you guys put for, I can't remember which exchange it was, Trocador.app. I was really impressed because their rates are lower than basically everyone else, and then they list everyone else's rates for swapping when you're on their website. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
I wasn't able to access them from Tor, but you know, VPN I could.
Oh, I thought they even have like a .onion site, don't they?
Oh, really? Maybe I need to look because I didn't go to the .onion version. I just went to the
I think they do.
You know,
yeah.
.app. All right. Well, that's good to know.
They're cool guys. Yeah, I think, are they going to be down at Monerotopia?
I think
so. Right?
Yeah, I believe they are.
They're part of our adoption alley, but I think they'll be down there actually. He's a very nice guy.
Cool. Well, I look forward to chatting with him then.
Yeah.
All right, so here we got Monero. Like I said, we're up going to the top of this line. Remember, we were down here. We said if you're a trader, this is probably a pretty good bet. And if you're a trader, you might start questioning whether you want to maybe take some profits right here on Monero. We have other interesting things happening. So Bitfinex, which who knows if they're telling the truth or not, but we have a whole bunch of Monero longs that just got opened as of Monday. So that's another interesting thing. Our ratio is finally pushing back to 0.006 versus Bitcoin. So I'm not really sure what to make of this. Again, if there's broad positive action in crypto markets and stocks, then I really just have to think that we're probably going to spend time down in this area here. So just something to be prepared for. And then one thing that's really puzzling me right now is the price divergences. So basically, remember we talked about last week that Binance just really pumped their prices up here. This was like a 1% divergence, and then they did a lot of volume. And then again, there's this positive price divergence with volume. And Monero has gone up a little bit, but not nearly as much as you would expect given this price divergence. So I'm not really sure what to make of that. I do wonder if, so I made this script public. I do wonder if these guys pay attention to that kind of thing at all. Are they kind of like screwing with their numbers now so that they can, so that there's no signal here for people that are trading Monero, so that they can't use this as a signal potentially, like, or, maybe not. Maybe they're up to something else. I don't know, but I really don't know what to make of this, because in the past, it has been fairly useful to be able to see, to get some idea of where Monero's price might be going. So the broader markets are basically positive, but we had a kind of the day ended on a big dip here. So, I mean, everything is still, like this is Bitcoin, for example, everything is still kind of trending here at this top line. That doesn't mean that, we couldn't come down to this line right here. For the moment, the markets seem broadly positive. The S&P has bigger problems than the NASDAQ because, again, the banks are all sort of, not all of them, but, banks are going to be as part of the S&P, not the NASDAQ. And since banks have been having problems, they've kind of had a little bit more trouble here establishing support as, or establishing this bear market trend line as support. However, the NASDAQ has already gotten back up to the original place where it kind of pumped out of in January. So it's already back up here at the top. That looks good. That looks positive. There is, like, I do feel like just intuitively that there's some uncertainty in the markets right now, which is probably why Bitcoin sold off and why crypto sold off here at the end of the day. It's like, it's kind of hard if you're not already long to get long right here, because you look at this and you think, well, we're at the top of the trend, and this has now been like at least a week of action, and it's like we can't quite break this line. So and then we've kind of got other places that are going to be somewhat limiting. Let's turn the statistics off for a moment. So, I mean, obviously the July, the summer of 2021, this area is going to be definitely going to be somewhat limiting. And then, of course, back in 2022 for the summer, this area right here. So we're basically coming up, or at least Bitcoin is coming up on this place where you would think that this is going to be a tough place to rise above. So if we've got general positivity in the rest of the markets, maybe this can just happen. Maybe it can just pump. But it does look like the market might be just a little bit uncertain right here. So really, I don't feel like I have a good read on the markets right now. So I wouldn't be able to recommend anything necessarily specific to do. The dollar index, another big one that we keep track of here. It was kind of schizophrenic around the banking problems, and then I was kind of expecting like this bounce. It wasn't entirely surprising, but I really did think that we would come to this long trend line right here, because if we take a look at the longer timeline, you can see that this trend line is like decades long. Yeah, so this trend line, you kind of expected that we were going to hit that back here, so maybe that's what's going to happen now. I did expect the dollar to make it all the way up to that splitter, and that didn't happen either. So I do think that sort of the fundamental events that happened with the banking sector, that could be part of it. So, I mean, overall, I still see sort of continuation here. I don't see big signs that this is on the verge of reversal, that we're suddenly going to crash again. But there are little signs creeping up. There's a couple other things that I've started to put on my horizon here, or on my list. So we'll talk about those a little bit later, some other time, if they become a problem. Right now, it's like just the beginning of a blip, but that blip, if it continues in the direction that it did, that would become a problem eventually. So I guess that's about all I have for you guys today. There's really not too much to talk about. The markets are overall flat to positive, and there is uncertainty. So traders, try not to be too DGen. Good luck.
All right, man. Awesome. What's
Gary Johnson. Someone in the comments here put Gary Johnson. That's what we're talking about.
That was okay, Gary Johnson.
How is the BTC XMR looking? What do you like? What's your call on that?
So we've got this was the Monero Bitcoin price chart. So I do think that this support right here, these up sloping lines, excuse me, I do think that should be good support overall. It's been support for a very long time. It's amazing actually how this structure and this structure were just so similar. And of course we hoped that would happen, that this thing would pump. And it's really not what happened. But I mean, thoughts on XMR BTC? We're not looking super rosy. It's kind of like a hedge in a way. So if things are not looking good with the markets and we're going into a bear market, XMR BTC should perform. When the leverage has to unwind on these propped up prices, including Bitcoin, the leverage has to unwind, and Monero does relatively better. And then of course, because it's actually used in certain markets. But when things are positive and the market's bouncing, it's like, well, they're leveraging up at the price. So it's kind of like we have to deal with this crap right here. So my thinking on XMR BTC is not to hope for too much at the moment. I think that it's very possible we're going to play in this range, maybe at some point come down here before maybe coming up to the top of the range. And what's interesting is that this structure right here would even resonate or corroborate the idea that I have that later this year, maybe it's August, maybe it's November, that we're going to have another return to the downside for the markets in general. Like maybe it'll be a double bottom, or maybe it'll be like an actual full-blown crisis. I think for now, like I don't think that this whole banking thing is going to turn into a big contagion crisis. Like I do think that this is very likely to just kind of sort of go away and become less prominent, less of a big deal. But I do think that there are the signs that we probably have to contend with the lows or somewhere close to it. Bitcoin 20K, 19K, S&P, NASDAQ, somewhere close to their lows again later this year. So somewhere around this time frame, which again, if we're talking about just in terms of XMR BTC, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to take this too far, because it's really easy to extrapolate and be like, oh, well, I know the answer because XMR BTC says this. It's just like a little data point you put in your head. We know that the ratio performs during bear markets when things are questionable. And we do know that we're looking at this kind of this TA signature right here, or pattern or whatever, that we've seen before, where like, okay, if Bitcoin and the markets are going to do good, we're probably going to be doing something like that before potentially beating this area again, which notice that lines up September, November, right at the end of the year here. So that's just a very small point. That's like, okay, that would be a small corroborating point, and then you try and collect these overall. That's the idea. you don't want to like be like, this is the thing, right? That's you're dealing with probabilities here. So hopefully that makes some sense.
Yeah. I mean, it would be cool if we saw like a little bit of a move to Monero out of kind of what like the zeitgeist right now, what's going on in crypto, right? You got that guy Balaj, right, who's screaming fire in the building, and fiat is done. The only safe spot is Bitcoin, and not only that, they're going to come after your Bitcoin, right? He's like just he's amping it up even more and more, right? He's like
so ridiculous. These
fiat
guys are like
move it all to Bitcoin, and don't be surprised if the government like knocks on your door and they try to take your Bitcoin away from you. And
and people listen to that crap. People believe that crap. They hear it. Like they're playing on the plebs' emotions. They're playing on retail. They're pulling all the puppet strings. It's designed to get people on the wrong side of the market.
He's just doing a pump. I mean, he's just.
I do think that we're kind of like, so if you remember, maybe a couple months ago, when we talked about, or just in general, I've talked about, you have these market makers, exchanges, these influencers, the big players, yada yada. It can be sometimes that they need retail on the opposite side of the trade. Like for example, in 2021, they needed exit liquidity at the top. So everything was just like unrelentingly positive. It was just like, it's going 100K. And then recently, that was actually a big tell for me in January. Some of these big players, even CZ, were giving little clues and indicators that the market had farther down to go. And all of my charts, as we talked about, everything was shifting towards the other side, towards a positive. And then when those guys were like, oh, be scared and sell, I was like, no, they're getting entrance liquidity now. They're reacquiring their bags. So sorry to answer your question a very long way here, but to answer your question, right now, they need people to augment their long trade. They're in the long trade. They're on the long side of the market, and they want more retail, more plebs to be fearful of hyperinflation, to get into Bitcoin, to buy crypto, pump their bags. And at some point, they're going to be looking for exit liquidity. Now, I'm not sure that they know exactly how much positivity retail can have, but at some point, these guys are going to start selling their bags. They're going to try and get volume buying. They're going to sell their bags into the volume retail buying. And that's just how the game is played. That's just what they do. So you can't sorry, go ahead.
Isn't going to hodl all the way to 1 million.
He's probably got a big hodl that he's never going to sell, but he's got you can bet he's got a trading stack, and he's got other economic interests involved with playing the market.
Yeah, but I guess the point I wanted to make though, right? So like if you're going to continue down his road, the logic he's using, you might want to move some of that into Monero, right? If you're worried that
absolutely
the unconfiscatability nature of crypto is about to be tested, you might want to move it into Monero.
Yeah, buy some Monero from a friend.
It would be amazing if we started to see that play out. Obviously, that'd be amazing. Do you think
if the government took everyone's Bitcoin?
No, it'd be amazing if we saw that play out in the market.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
Where like thinking this is going to happen, and they're trying to move to a safe haven, and they do the next level of thinking big. Wait a minute, you could see all my Bitcoin. They could see where I bought it. They know I still have it. Maybe I want to throw it in a safer space, which is Monero, right?
Monero is a safe space.
The Monerotopia is a safe space. Yeah, man. So I don't know. Is that too? Am I dreaming? That's not come soon?
You might be daydreaming. It could happen.
Let me ask you this: do you think any of the movement we've seen with Bitcoin, like its recent run up, had anything to do with these concepts that are out there, like that it is the safe haven, fiat is dying, or was it really just that the market was anticipating that the interest rates were, the pivot was going to happen?
No, there's definitely organic purchasing. People really were afraid the system might collapse. They really were afraid of banking contagion. There was definitely organic moves into Bitcoin. And of course that gets supplemented with leverage as well.
Right. So what do you think most of the pump was coming from? Was it coming from anticipating that it's the end of interest rate raising, or this, fiat is dying and you better get your Bitcoin now?
I I would go with the interest rates and
Yeah, that's what I'm
and
saying, right? Like I
the
feel like that,
availability of the availability of capital. Like those are the things that really drive the big players that can move the markets, and smart money as well. I mean, they're not everyone is in a back smoky room and all, but the people that have access to liquidity, big liquidity to move $1 trillion market cap, when the rates are more friendly to them, and when there's these programs at the Fed where they can loan money or borrow money, like that's the thing that's really driving the market. The narrative is just there to like kind of convince the retail guys as well.
right? All right, man. Good stuff. We'll see
Well, thank you very much.
how the story pans out next week as
Yeah,
everybody
hopefully
rushes into Monero.
I want to see Monero break that overhead resistance. Yeah, that's right. You know what? Why don't we should start putting out our own narratives. Doesn't matter, true or not.
It's the way
Monero
the
narratives,
it's the way the scam would go.
Moneratives.
I mean, it's a legitimate narrative, right? If people are going to start moving over away from fiat into Bitcoin because they're worried that the fiat system is collapsing, and if the next thought is they're worried that their crypto is going to be confiscated, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. The only thing I worry about new retail plebs is like they only know what guys like Balaji tell them, and Balaji's not going to tell them to go buy Monero. Like the people that have been in it for a while, the ones that have principles, the real libertarians, those guys, we already know about Monero, and we have our brethren on the Bitcoin side as well that believe in the same principles, and some of them kind of hate Monero. But the new guys, it's like I don't know, like something needs to happen to reach them, and it's very difficult because I do think that it's likely that some of these powerful forces actually try to make sure Monero does not get out to the masses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe at one point though you will have your Michael Saylor or Balazs of Monero. I think you're
Let's
gonna
do a CSS collage promotion.
You just need somebody to pretend to be that person.
Yeah, maybe for
Unknown
his
millionaire.
success, we'll hack someone's Twitter account and just for a moment.
Yeah, we'll use
We'll
AI.
borrow their account.
All right, buddy.
All right,
Good
man.
stuff. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Talk to you next week.
Cheers.
All right. See ya. Bye-bye. Alrighty. Let's move on to the dev segment. Unfortunately, DGoon wasn't able to join us live, but he did a recording. So
Very nice.
And now for the Monero development segment.
So this week we have some limits put on the Monero NFTs. We're going to go over that today. So basically what happened since our last update was that there was a merge put into the official Monero repo that limits TX extra in the transaction pool. And this sort of limits how easy it is to make NFTs. We're going to get into that a little bit more later. So this change has been pending officially since February the 5th, but I'm sure this fix has been floating around the space way before then. It's a relatively straightforward fix. But like I said, once again, it was pending in the repo since February the 5th, not being merged. There was some great discussion about the trade-offs, the cons and the pros about this in this repo. So it's been discussed thoroughly, but not merged yet. But if you're paying attention, as our show last week said, someone actually made Monero NFTs. So you can see here, someone's like, hey, by the way, we should probably get this merged because someone's actually making NFTs. So after this prompt, I think like a couple days later, it was merged. And what does this merge do? So officially this merge basically limits the size of transactions, specifically TX extra in the transaction pool, and basically nodes have to upgrade to it. But what does this not do? Miners still have no limits still. So basically miners can directly mine NFT transactions, massive transactions, if they want to, essentially. So it can be done out of band, sort of. And currently, even without miners, NFTs basically just need to string different transactions together, right? So maybe an NFT is too large to put in one transaction. So you can imagine an NFT person splits it in 2 or 3 or 4. You can still do that. That is effective, but it does increase the price, which is I think a pretty good fix at this time. But like I said, Justin has a great summary in the repo concerning this. He pretty much says this isn't a permanent fix or like the end all be all. It's a great start. And they're still talking about different things that will get merged in later. But this merge right here is a great start. And I agree. It was like, I think like 2-3 weeks after Monero NFTs went live, which is great to respond so fast. The dev community has been great in talking about all of this, informing the community, have these conversations, even before Monero NFTs were a thing. So Monero community is clearly committed to digital cash, and it's great to see them address issues before they pop up so that you can see such a quick response when the issue does present itself. And to iterate that, Monero Talk with Doug and Justin was awesome. That happened literally, I think, Thursday, and it was great. I listened to it. You should listen to it too. It's amazing. It covers these things in great details, the pros and cons of Ordinals, maybe some things that can be fixed around them. Just a great overview of the technology and its issues specifically. So as usual, I recommend you watch the Monero Talk with Justin if you want to do a deep dive into this issue. And that'll be it. Hope y'all have a great day.
Right.
Righty.
He even worked in a plug for,
Yeah, he did.
for Monero Talk. Great job. Great job. Great
Which
update.
The video will
Thank
be
you, DGoon.
edited and published, but you guys can listen to the.
Great job, DGoon. Great job.
I didn't want to make people deaf just in case. Yeah, we're working on the video itself, but if you guys just want to listen to the audio, the Spaces is recorded on Twitter.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do the Q&A during that not because of us, because Twitter Spaces messed up again. A lot of issues with Twitter Spaces.
Yeah.
And it would have been great because we had Luke Parker sitting in there like ready to jump in the convo. Actually, we tried to get him on today, but he was busy. Maybe we'll get him on soon to get his full take. He's been tweeting about it. He just put a tweet out about it. Recommend you follow Luke for the latest on all this stuff and for his point of view. And then we have JT Grassi coming on Monero Talk next week. So he's a dev. He's an OG. He always has amazing insights and wisdom to provide. So looking forward to talking to him next week. That's going to be really good. It's going to be really good. We're going to talk about, what the plan is with deprecating, or if we're going to deprecate TX Extra, or how much we're going to, obviously they made this initial limit right now overnight, as a way to send a message that Monero, or ordinals or inscriptions aren't wanted on Monero. I mean, ideally, sure, if it was possible to do without destroying fungibility, it'd be a nice to have thing. But the fact that it threatens it in any way is just it's a non-starter. But JT Grassi's coming on. That should be really awesome talk. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it more even today.
Sure, we
Keep
will.
it going.
Alrighty. I guess let's move on
Who
to
would
the
have
guest
thought?
segments.
2023 M Ordinals. Didn't see that one coming.
No.
And the
neither
M
did I,
Ordinals
actually.
guy is getting pretty feisty on Twitter. I don't know. Maybe he'll jump on a Monerotopia. Who knows?
Maybe. All right, shall we move on to the guests? They've been patiently waiting.
Let's do it.
Locally,
Maybe one of
locally.
these guests is the M Ordinals. Yeah, nobody even knows who he is. Maybe it's
Yeah, definitely me.
Anita.
So
Whoop, wrong one. The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
Where'd you get that music?
I did not. Our editor did.
Oh,
She's awesome. What can we
she's
say?
amazing. Can we mention that? I don't know. That's was that top secret?
Yeah, that's top secret.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hello, welcome. We have two special guests.
We went from not having any special guests today because I don't know, whatever happened this week, we got all mixed up.
Well, no, because also changing it to Friday. So
yeah,
kind of messed things up.
we panicked and we reached out to people and we ended up with 2 very special guests for the evening. So thank you guys, number 1, for doing it on short notice. Greatly appreciated. Would you guys want to quickly introduce yourselves? I guess Privacy Dad, if you want to give a quick intro.
Sure. Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for jumping on.
Yeah. So, well, I'm not going to be able to help you with any of the interesting technical stuff you were just talking about, but I had warned you about that.
No
so I do a blog about digital privacy, and I found out about you guys during COVID, and I liked the positive energy of the show, and it made me happy to listen to your podcast. And then I got into Monero a little bit too. Awesome. And I've been writing a blog about what it's like. You listen to shows like yours and you read, I was listening to Seth's Opt Out, and I listened to the surveillance report. And when you try to do some of those things, when you have no idea what you're doing, that's kind of what I try to write about, what that's like.
Very cool. So kind of entry level, you help people discover privacy tech, kind of on board.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a bit of a gap at the moment that the people that know how to do the things like mine Monero, they know how to do it and they talk confidently about it. And the people that don't, it's a big jump for them. So like for me, I set up a mining computer and it took months for me to get it to work. And it's a simple thing. Now that I look back, I feel like an idiot. But if you don't know what you're doing, you really don't know what you're doing.
We're in your category, Privacy Dad. I mean, we're out here talking about this stuff all the time, and obviously we walk the walk. We're all Monero. We transact in the Monero nonstop. But like, there's a lot of things where we don't really have the time to stop and figure it all out. So, totally get that, right? Like,
yeah.
Well, and like you said, there is that gap, right? Because those that know it, they know it so well. It's like they're forgetting that there's total noobs that have no idea, where to start or what you're talking about. Like you need an in-between person to communicate.
I think we need a lot.
Yeah, I think that's what we try to be for Monero, right? Like,
you are doing a good job with that, because I had no idea about anything crypto, and now I have Cake Wallet, and I'm mining Monero, and I have a node running, and that's because of your show. So
awesome!
Oh, that's awesome!
Congratulations!
Thank you. No, that's
cheers to us.
Makes us feel nice. Yeah. It's working.
And Privacy Dad, we're doing the same thing for Privacy Dad.
All the hard work is paying off.
Yeah, I admire your energy and your drive. You're always super energetic, and no matter how many people are live with you.
Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah, luckily, you don't see the behind the scenes.
No, you do not.
Yeah.
Well, happy alive.
I don't need to.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't need to.
That could be its own show. That could be after hour.
Thank you for the kind
awesome,
words.
man. What is your website and everything?
It's just the privacydad.com.
Sweet.
And it's just a blog. I try to publish twice a week. And I just there's a kind of main thread to the blog, which is I go back to maybe 5 years ago when I quit Facebook. That was a first kind of big step for me. And then all the little steps in between that have led up to, I have a Nextcloud server now, and my kids are on Woogle. And it's all those little steps that I try to kind of sequence them. And then I occasionally do posts about parenting, how that has affected my parenting. And then a few like beginner, definitions. What is a VPN? And what is ISP? And so on.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
So are you teaching your kids these concepts?
Yeah. They're on Ubuntu, and they are they've got Calyx type phones, and
that's amazing.
And so on. Yeah, it's and they don't get teased for it. I've had some reactions on Reddit where someone thought I should be careful with that stuff because they'll be ostracized. They're not on social media.
They're going to be the cool kids, man.
They're
the cool crowd. Everybody will be looking around. Like, what's going on over there? Oh, I don't know. I'm not being spied on by politicians. How you doing?
They have Nokia, those Nokia, they call them bricks, those heavy, indestructible Nokia phones. They go to school with those.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think they need a smartphone, but that's probably extreme.
Yeah, I don't know. I might do the same thing. My daughter's only 8, so
She doesn't need a phone just yet.
She really wants one.
No,
she's
she's
all
too
about
young.
it. No,
Yeah,
no, I
they
like
start.
to
No,
skip the
Oh,
smartphone.
yeah.
You know?
Sure.
my youngest is 11, and she's the only one in her class that doesn't have a smartphone.
There's so much value you get out of that, for keeping your kid away from
Well,
the
I hope
social
so.
media
Save them
for as
from all
long
that
as, like, forget the privacy
chaos.
stuff.
Yeah.
Just keeping them away from the social media.
Until
It's
they get
just,
older. And they want to.
first of all, it's a complete total waste of time, right? And it just has you focused on the wrong things.
Yeah.
It's like kids need to socialize, but they also need, I think it's natural for us to turn off and not socialize at parts in our life. And it's like high school was intense, right? I could only imagine what it's like now, because the day never really ends.
That's right. It keeps going at night, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like you have that locker moment where you're socializing with everybody. It's
you go home and that's it.
It continues throughout the evening. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. So it's just stressful. So yeah, I'm gonna
that's kind of the concern, though, that you don't want to have your child excluded from conversations that are ongoing and be out of the loop.
Right.
But we'll see how it goes. I can respond as it comes up.
As it comes along. Yeah. No, that's.
And you've written articles on this exact topic?
Yeah. I'm pretty clear about that. I write maybe more confidently about parenting because I'm doing that right now. And then the privacy stuff, I'm pretty clear that I'm not like Seth or those other guys that know what they're talking about. I'm really just describing experiences, and I always try to describe the problems that I ran into, to show that it wasn't that easy. Seth will say just set up your Nextcloud, and then for me that was like a whole summer. Because I didn't know command line, I didn't know anything, I didn't know about modems, and so it's a big gap, I think, between the media presenters and the people that might just be starting out.
What, if you don't mind me asking, what is your kind of your background, like your day job?
I'm a teacher, high school teacher.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So I talk about Monero to my classes.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Really? What type of class or grade?
Like high school, some of it's like AP, advanced placement level.
Oh,
so we have interesting discussions about money and trends, and I've talked to them about privacy a lot, and I've showed them some of those good documentaries that are on Netflix at the moment, and we've talked about Monero, and I know one student who knew about it. A kid of 16 was aware of Monero. Yeah.
Awesome.
Pretty cool.
Is that how he bought his weed off? Is that how you knew? He caught
No. Well, he knew what I was talking about, and he understood some of the differences that I've learned from you. And
what is the general feel among this? My daughter's only I'm curious. Yeah, like among the high schoolers, right? Because they're the up and comers right now. What is the feel? Do they grasp? Obviously, they're all aware of crypto, right? But do they grasp like the value proposition, or at least what we believe is the value prop? Like, are they on board with that?
No, I don't think they understand your message. Which is that it could be an alternative economy coin. I think they see it more as a way to get really rich quick, because that has happened to people with Bitcoin. And in fact, some of my graduates did. They bought Bitcoin maybe 5 or more years ago and made money as kids. So
they're looking for the next Bitcoin or the next Dogecoin.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's about the limit of how young people see crypto. But you have the occasional student who gets it about privacy and alternatives to the mainstream apps and so on.
Very cool, man. And so, and you teach them these concepts as well?
Yeah, I talk about it regularly, and I challenge them, and I show them I have a light phone. I don't know if you know the light phone. It's like it's not really a privacy phone, but it takes you off the smartphone, and being on a smartphone means usually you're downloading a lot of third-party apps, and that's not good for privacy. So I show them it, and we have conversations. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah,
You really are the privacy dad.
you really are. Yeah, man. Maybe just throwing it out there. But if you're interested, we could maybe like add some kind of segment, do it once a month or whatever when you do a new.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'd be happy to. Yeah,
love to do that. Very cool.
I do. I mean, I like writing, but I do really think the name came from this. Do you know the surveillance report?
Yes.
Yeah, those guys said at one point in one of their shows, they said, "Oh, we need people to fill the middle space, and we need parents to talk about it. And here's a name, the Privacy Dad. You can have it, whoever." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And I got the domain name right away, paid for it,
that is awesome.
And just started writing. And but I really do think I understand what you're trying to do. You are enthusiasm media. And you're trying to generate enthusiasm, but there is a big gap between the people that are in the know and the people that are on the outside. And I don't see a lot of movement there myself. Like I'm the only person that I know in person that has a Calyx phone and has is running a Linux and things like that. No one else is that I know in person. So that's kind of what I think is important, that we bridge the gap, if that's what we need to do.
Yeah, and it's just great business, right? There's so much potential there. I do think there's going to be a movement in that direction.
Yeah.
Right?
You think so?
Yeah, definitely. Because then people are going to crave privacy. It's going to become a valuable thing, right? Like this idea of being able to escape.
Yeah.
Because there's really nowhere to escape these days, so people are naturally going to seek that, right?
I hope so. I agree with you, but I'm not sure I'm seeing it in practice. And you had a guy on in February, Bednar Juraj. Yeah. And he said something that I liked, which was, well, why do we need to onboard people? What about if we just drop the idea and just whoever wants to use these tools uses them and the rest can, wander around in the dark?
Yeah, no, that's the real cypherpunk view, right? Like,
is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the, it's like we're here, we're building these tools. And if anything, we don't want to be out there pushing it too much because we don't want the culture to get ruined, right? I think there's that thing too, right? Because if you make the tent too big, then you start to have people that are coming into the tent that really aren't as idealistic, and that's where you start to let down your armor, right? For example, like the M ordinals thing, right, on Monero, right? Like,
I'm trying to understand.
And before you know it, there's a group of people in Monero like, well, we would love to have NFTs, right? And like the digital cash thing maybe doesn't matter as much to them once the tent gets large enough. So
I listened to your last show, and I understood some of it. I can see that some people are worried about it, but I have a question for you. I was wondering, like, what motivates you to do what you guys are doing? Yeah, because you're putting a lot of energy and time into it, and you like I said, your show is one of the things that got me through COVID. Because of the positivity and the consistency of the message, which is a well-reasoned message. But I do wonder where the energy comes from too.
I'm just not a normal person. I'm like you, man. I'm a man on a mission, So.
And what's the mission? Is what I was
liberty.
Liberty.
The pursuit of liberty and the fight against tyranny. I've always maybe when I was younger, it was more. I came across as more of perhaps a conspiracy theorist in my own mind, but I think now it's all the things that I was fearful of are coming to fruition. So I got off my seat and tried to do things. I've always been that way. I've worked on projects like when I was in my 20s. I guess no, it was during law school. I tried starting this thing called Gov Together.
You're a lawyer?
Yes, I'm an attorney.
Okay.
I'm an engineer as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I worked on this project called Gov Together, where I was trying to improve representative democracy. And I wasn't getting anything out of it. It wasn't a business.
Yeah.
It had no business model. Just like a maniac, I was trying to get this thing off the ground. I was trying to get a local congressman to adopt the system where he'd pledge to vote in Congress in accordance with how his constituents were voting, right?
Yeah. That's like what happens in Europe.
Yeah, not a direct democracy, but like a way to directly poll all your constituents, right? And ultimately, the representative would still then have to decide. But just an example, this is something I was very passionate about, and I was just out there trying to do it. So I guess I just always had this drive towards trying to improve, improve this country, improve the world, and add more liberty to it. And I'm just concerned, man. I mean, I assume you are too, right? Like,
yes, yeah, very.
Stuff, right? I assume it's not just about protecting your information. It's about the ramifications of if everybody's information is getting surveilled, what that then means for society. Right?
Yeah, we're sort of, it's like what they use the metaphor of frying. What do you fry? Crab slowly? Is that how you kill them? Or lobster?
Boiling a frog.
Yeah, like slowly, people are giving up little bits of their agency and their privacy, and that is a bad direction to go in.
Yeah, so that's what motivates me, man. I ran for Congress in 2020 for these ideas and for Monero, right? I see Monero as being literally, when I try to think of how I can make the largest impact to this end, there's really nothing else I feel like I can do that would have such a great impact as opposed to onboarding a new person to Monero, right? Like, it's tremendous, right? We're building this network, and it's like it doesn't go away, right? It just the network effect builds, and so running for office, being out there talking about like you could achieve things, but through the traditional system, it's very hard to make a tremendous impact, and there's a much larger impact that could be made by just building this tech outside of the conventional system.
Yeah. I have I know that you use the cake wallet method to you send somebody a little bit, and I've done that with some friends and family, and one of my children even has a bit of Monero now, but everyone is like, okay, now what?
Well,
they think,
now they can like gift cards and all that stuff, right? Or they could watch it potentially go up in price.
Yeah. It's at the moment a bit hard to spend it. I use it for Molvad, Molvad VPN. I think that's a really neat experience to pay for something completely anonymous over a digital network. I think that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, we use iVPN. They accept it as well.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? So for young kids, but there's things, right? And I'm sure they'll figure it out. They'll realize it's nice to have digital cash, right?
Yeah.
You want to buy things privately. I think they'll start to see the value, and it's at the end. It's not about buying gift cards and cake. That's like, if somebody needs to liquidate and needs to but the end goal, right, is somebody's using it directly to make a purchase.
Yeah.
I think we're getting there, man. Like people like me and you are starting to do it.
Well, I went on local Monero and I didn't exchange that, and I found it pretty scary, to be honest. It felt a bit dodgy. Like,
no, I know. I agree. That's what I talked to Alex about. Like, how do we, that's really the issue he's trying to overcome. Because at the end of the day, it's literally just as simple as a centralized exchange, potentially even easier. But there's this barrier of entry. There's this friction.
Well, you have all these different individuals that you have to trust, and you just pick some random. But I suppose it's the same as eBay, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, you have these different individuals, but they're really, once, depending on how you do it, right? Meeting them in a dark alley to give them cash, Monero, sure, that's sketchy. But using these other methods, right? You could send Venmo to buy your Monero, and there's really not much trust involved because because of the escrow system built in. So it's really, really hard to get screwed over if you're like using Venmo on local Monero to buy Monero, right? You just pick the top rated guy, boom, you send, and he sends his Monero, and you're good to go.
So local Monero works on a rating system too, then, just like secondhand markets.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh, sorry.
Wait, we lost him.
Yeah,
Why
I
did he
think
sign
so.
off?
I don't know.
Tell him to come back up.
I don't have his. I don't know how
Okay.
you messaged him.
Sorry, Privacy Down. Hold on.
No, I hope I didn't talk too long there.
No. That was us. He dropped out. We lost Freeport.
Freeport, where you at? Oh no, he's back. He's back.
Okay, he's back.
Okay, you're back.
He's back.
We thought
He's
we
back.
lost
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Sorry, man. We were just, So Privacy Dev, we'll leave it at that. Please hang around if you can, because maybe
I will.
you participate in the news.
Yeah.
And now we will. Do you want to do another
let's
special
do another,
guest?
Yeah, so we can.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you,
for,
man.
for jumping on.
Yeah.
And we'll be in touch. I like this idea of maybe a once a month segment, so we get.
I'd be up for that for sure.
Very cool.
All right. Awesome.
Nice meeting you.
All right, let's
You
do.
too.
Oh, one last question.
Oh.
Any chance you're coming down to Monerotopia?
In Mexico,
Yeah.
probably not.
Okay. All right.
I know you're looking. I know. I wish I could, but I work, and I don't think I'd be able to.
You should broadcast the conference to your students.
To my students,
Well,
I'd
for
get in
free.
trouble.
I mean, we won't charge you, for free, obviously. Anybody that wants to do that, by the way, to broadcast it to an arena of people.
Arena.
Yeah, I think
Small
I'd get in trouble if
classroom
I did that. I don't think I'm meant
The old hate,
to.
no?
I know. Now
Yeah.
you're just pushing it. Arena.
But you said you can join online. You said that earlier
Yeah, we have
today.
Yeah, we
Virtual
added a
ticket.
virtual ticket, so
Okay.
that's actually a great idea. That'd be great. Get schools to
Yeah.
show it.
Yeah. Let's try to do that.
Let me
Spread
work
the
on
word.
that. I'll be right back.
But
All right.
yeah,
Thanks,
thank you
Privacy
so
Dad.
much, Privacy Dad. And
Thank you.
Freeport, we're just gonna do a little intro for you. The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys. All righty.
I'm loving the show tonight. This is
know.
like one of those nights you sit back Friday night, listen to Monerotopia for like 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's
It's been a long week of Douglas and his voice, actually, thinking about it.
I had like 4 shows.
We had so many shows this
my God.
week. Oh my God. And then
Freeport.
tomorrow too. Hello,
What's going
Freeport.
on,
How's
man?
it going? You're muted. Thank you
It's
so much
going
for your
pretty good. How are you guys?
Good, good. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for
Oh, no
jumping in.
problem.
You want to give
Quickly
the quick
introduce
intro, which will, I'm sure, lead into a 30-minute convo?
Sure. So, I'm not sure exactly what you guys would like to know, but essentially, Freeport is kind of like a free private city or free private society. We got our independence back on December 10th, 2016. Since then, we've been kind of building up, and essentially we're going to be building a community in Nevada that's kind of with like-minded individuals that want to come together away from kind of the rest of the system, do our own thing, be self-sufficient. Of course, we're very heavily privacy focused, and we believe in and support Monero. In fact, that's the only currency that we use. And the only way that that'll ever change is if something happens with Monero where it becomes unsustainable or it's no longer around anymore or whatever, and then we will switch to something else. I come from a background in law enforcement. I worked with the Oregon State Police on a drug task force unit. And then after that, I got into actual law and international law and things like that. And then it just kind of developed from there.
Very cool, man. So, like, but you said you guys got your statehood in what When was that?
December 10th of 2016.
And what do you mean by that? You got your statehood. How'd you do that?
Okay, so the way that you get sovereignty, independence, however you want to phrase it, is there's a protocol and a procedure that's followed, and that's that you have to come together with other like-minded individuals, meaning like a group of 2 or more people, and sit down, decide how you're going to form your government, how you're going to run things, put it on paper, and declare your independence, which that's exactly what we did. And then you have to send that notice out to other nations to give them a chance to respond. And if nobody responds or objects, you have your freedom and your independence and your statehood, legally speaking. And it was interesting because the fact that when we did that, we knew that we had the legal right, but we didn't know how the United States and other countries would respond. And honestly, we've seen nothing but respect and gratitude from the U.S. and from other countries. They've completely honored it and respected it, and they've left us alone.
When you say they honored and respected it, they responded to it, or they just never responded to it?
To begin with, they never responded to it at all. They have now, in the sense that we were communicating back and forth with the U.S. Supreme Court on a case that was going on out of Sudan, and they gave us recognition in that correspondence with the Supreme Court back and forth.
Recognition by calling you by a title or something, or?
Kind of. Recognition is when a government entity recognizes you as a society, as an individual, whatever. And so they sent us a letter with the entire court case, and on the envelope they put it as addressed to Ambassador, and then my name, Freeport Diplomatic Mission, and our location here in Southern California. And that right there, from a legal standpoint, is recognition. And since then, we've got communications from the State Department, from various other government agencies, and they treat us and speak with us directly as they do anybody else.
So what is, when you say it's legal to do? Where'd you come up with the process? How did you discover this process, and what does this status really give you? I mean, you can't. Are you saying you're going to start your own government within the territory of the United States?
Kind of. So there's a long precedence of it, and it's the exact same precedence the United States followed when the U.S. was formed in law, in international law specifically. It's called the right of exile, or more commonly known as the right of self-determination, which essentially says that people, when they come together, have the right to decide how they're going to govern themselves and live their lives and things like that. That's how every country is able to form itself and do things. Even the United States, when it was first formed, for the first 9 years, technically, they didn't own any land. They didn't have land until the Treaty of Versailles, 9 years after the U.S. was officially formed. And that's one of the big misconceptions, is most people believe that you have to own a chunk of territory or whatever in order to have a government, and you really don't. Because from a legal standpoint, it's about jurisdiction, not about physical location. And there's another thing in international law that even kind of protects that, and it's called the right of embassy, which is that every society, every government has the right to exist and has the right to have a place to exist.
Okay, this sounds pretty wild. So, I mean, is the idea that you don't then have to abide by the laws of the United States?
As a separate society, separate government, however you want to define it. And you with a background in law, being an attorney and stuff, you might be familiar with some of this. If not, I would encourage you to look it up. But there's a thing called sovereign immunity, just the same as what the U.S. government has with its citizens, things like that, where you're not bound to the laws of another society, another jurisdiction. That's kind of how that works. And that's protected in international law. And I know I keep mentioning that a lot because it's kind of so important. And and please don't just take my word for it. I would highly encourage people to go look up the actual context of international law, which is a series of books called The Law of Nations. We've been working with the United Nations and various other countries as well, but that's kind of where we're at and what we're doing.
Crazy, man. It sounds wild, which but keep trucking. I mean, so where do you see this going? And I guess what is motivating you to do this? This is similar to Privacy Dad's question to me. What is your motivation?
Well, the motivation is we were, of course, and by we I mean the people involved with Freeport. We were all born in the United States. We all started learning law and really understood it. And then we realized that, hey, we can no longer continue to support the U.S. and what they're doing. And one of the mottos, for an example, of the United States is E pluribus unum, simply meaning out of many, one. And legally speaking, what that means is if one person in your society does something, everybody in that society is guilty of it. And we could not continue to stay as U.S. citizens, subjects, however you want to phrase it, and be a party to what the U.S. is doing. More simply, we didn't want the blood on our hands. And we said, you know what? We can't continue to be a part of the system, a part of the society, and we don't want violence or war or anything else. So what are our options? Our option is a peaceful settlement of the dispute, which is the right of self-determination. And so that's exactly what we did.
Well, you found your way to Monero, so you must be doing something right? I'm interested. I'm interested in the logic you're using to proceed in the way you are. Yeah, man, I'm curious to see how this goes. I mean, this is the real life Monerotopia is what you're building here.
Well, essentially, we're just trying to provide people an option where if they don't like the society that they're in, that they have other options. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to help educate people to show them, hey, if you don't like the U.S. or whatever, and even if you're not a fan of us, great. But here's how you can build your own society and do your own thing and actually have real freedom.
At your own risk, people. It's just like crypto. I don't know. Before you go start your own country, you might want to do your own research.
Yeah, definitely. Do your own research. Please don't just take my word for it. Go look it up. Educate yourself.
Yeah. That's good. My state is Monerotopia, right? So my thinking is it's opting out is something anybody could effectively do anywhere with the technology we have today. Mm-hmm. That's the angle I'm taking, right? So you could be in any jurisdiction, but you could be living in a Monero society, right? In this day and age,
right?
With the ability to create your own economy around you among the Monero accepting people.
Well, yeah, and admittedly, that's one of the things that we are planning on and working towards is being able to go in and buy our own island and extend or build up a new society there as well, not just continue to stay in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously been lots of attempts at that. I feel like there's more of those ramping up, right? Do you follow that closely?
I get different things that pop up from time to time, kind of in my news feed and stuff that people tell me about. The only one that I really follow a lot is the Liberland, and also another group called the Dominion of Melchizedek, which I understand vast majority of people have never heard of, just like they've never heard of us either, which is fine. And the reason why I follow the Dominion of Melchizedek so close is, number one, I personally know the individuals involved with it and doing it, but also they've done the same thing that we have, and they publish like everything. Their recognition, their official government communications with other countries, with other societies, they publish all of that for everybody. And so, of course, we follow that very closely because obviously we're doing essentially the same thing.
Right, learning from it. Very cool. So you're also trying to teach people how to do these things?
Yeah, and in fact, that's one of the things about me personally, is I've written different law books going over international law and kind of explaining it in a easy to understand, non-lawyer kind of language. And that's kind of the education that we're trying to provide to people.
Wow, very cool. So how'd you find your way to Monero? What's the Monero story?
Well, admittedly, we've been following the cryptocurrency technology and things for a while, kind of ever since Bitcoin. Back in 2017, I think, is when we first started paying attention to it. And the issue that I've kind of had with Bitcoin and a lot of the other cryptocurrencies, though, is the open ledger. And coming from a background in law enforcement, I understand crystal clear exactly how law enforcement and government uses that to track people, to kind of use it against people, and how it can be seized from people that are, citizen subjects, however you want to phrase it. And so it's like, okay, there needs to be another option that is completely private. And that's how come when we came across Monero, we're like, yes, this is it. This is the solution.
Very cool, man. That's promising to see that you've made your way here using that logic. Have you been following Bawdy and his attempts to pump Bitcoin to $1 million in 90 days?
The name doesn't ring a bell right off. I know that there's a lot of people that pump Bitcoin pretty regularly. And honestly, for me personally, every time I see that, it makes me cringe because I'm just like, why? Why would you invest into Bitcoin and tell everybody, not just the government, but anybody and everybody, what you're doing, how you're spending your money or your Bitcoin, whatever? It's like, if you don't care about your privacy, then sure, by all means, go at it. But let me take it to the extreme here. If that's the case and you have no problem with, people knowing what you're doing, who you're transacting with, whatever, then why not just put a camera in your house and display it to everybody? Oh, wait, because you may not want everybody knowing what you're doing all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, people are asking where to learn more about Freeport.
So we have our website, which is freeport.town. We've also got another website that's kind of just an archive at this point because we've switched away from that, and it was freeportgov.com. The freeportgov.com one may have more of our original documents and stuff like that, because we generally publish pretty much everything anyway, because we believe in transparency. But we also believe that people have the right of privacy. That it's not the government's business, nor should it be, everything that people are doing.
Right. So you try to balance the transparency of showing what you guys are up to without sacrificing your own privacy.
In a way, yeah. But it's also because of the fact that I do come from a background in law enforcement. One of the big things is you give the government the control of something, they're never going to give that up. And that's one of the reasons why we're so strongly invested with Monero, is because of the fact that we don't believe that government should be the one controlling the currency. When governments do that, it takes freedom away from the people.
Absolutely. How do you see things going down? What's your prediction in terms of Monero adoption, crypto adoption?
You know, I would love to see a lot more people adopt Monero and cryptos in general. But I think one of the biggest challenges that most people have is the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because of the different scams and things that have gone on in the crypto community in general. But at the same time, I also see a lot of people losing faith and trust in the financial system as it is. And so it may be their only option going forward.
Absolutely. So any chance you get a passport issued by the state of Freeport to come down to Monerotopia in Mexico City?
You know, we do have our own passports. Yeah. But Mexico, as of right now, has not really communicated with us at all. They've just kind of ignored us. And so the chance of them accepting it just by us, like going to the border and showing up and being like, hey, we're here, we're coming into your country, is kind of slim. So the chances of us being able to go down there this year, I would say, are non-existent.
It'd be pretty wild, though, if you attempted to do that and show up with your own passport from Freeport.
Well, and it's something that we are communicating with the Mexican government about, is being able to get them to accept our passport and things like that. And this is kind of one of the things that we've ran into with a lot of different nation states, is they don't want to be the first one to officially recognize us and things like that unless we become a member of the United Nations. And we're not going to do that.
Okay. Well, this is fascinating. Keep on keeping on, man. Would love to get the update at some point. And I'm sure we'll be in touch. Pop into Monerotopia at some time. What are kind of your next steps for growing your movement here?
Well, the thing that we're focusing on right now is, of course, we're putting together a social contract for people that want to come on board and join us. But also, we're getting money together to buy the property in Nevada and actually start going and building things.
Very cool, man. All right, we will leave it at that, because we still have a long show ahead. We got the news report. Freeport, thank you, appreciate it. Privacy Dad, thanks again. Actually, stick around if you can. We're gonna do the news. We got Tony. Thanks, man. Thanks for jumping on today.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheerios. All righty, let's move on to the
Interesting
news
stuff.
segment. The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by iVPN. Use a VPN to help prevent your online activity from becoming a permanent record. iVPN encrypts your data and DNS requests so your ISP or mobile network provider cannot monitor or log your online activity. Purchase an iVPN service today anonymously with Monero.
Activating.
I know.
Tony!
How's it going?
Hey guys.
How's everything?
Good. How are you guys? I missed you guys.
I know it's been a while. We
Tony,
missed you.
were you taking notes? Are you going to start your own country? We need a Tonytopia.
Well, it's gonna take time, to develop it. So stay tuned, guys. Give me, you know,
I'd be
Monerotopia. I'm gonna solidify and
Tonytopia.
How's it going, man?
good. I got a new work schedule, so now I can't
Okay.
really do Saturdays, but I think it should change soon. So then maybe I'll be able to, but I'm not sure.
You're not sure.
All right,
well,
yeah.
we're missing you, but don't worry.
So
You
we
do what you gotta
benefited
do.
from moving it to Friday.
Yeah, we did.
For those reasons. All right, man.
Do you
Yeah,
want to share your screen?
take it away.
Yes.
I don't see it anywhere, so I can share it.
Okay. Okay, perfect. The mural looks good behind.
Yes.
You guys got it set up.
We made it work. It's like every day I feel like it's just caving in.
It's getting larger and
Help
larger.
me, Lord, help me. Help me, guys.
That's funny. Okay.
All right,
So-
take it away.
Yep. Hey guys. So let's get into the news report. The first thing that I want to discuss is Fluffy Pony and their recent, well, not recent allegations, but someone posted that Fluffy Pony is allegedly helping Interpol with tracing Monero, and James Edwards made a lengthy thread discussing this situation and Fluffy Pony, and the fact that between 2009 and 2011 he worked for a company, and there was some fraud going on. So, and then this is being associated with, and some other things being associated with
Yeah,
him.
this guy came at him hard. Who is this guy? James.
I don't know.
Fluffy
I
was
don't
saying
know.
that James Edwards is a known scammer, so I'm curious what else or what he's alluding to there. I didn't really do the research on him, but yeah, I mean, what this all boils down to is if Monero works as intended, if it's actually truly an open source project that's been vetted,
right,
we really shouldn't even be concerned if Fluffy
Mhm.
Pony were theoretically working with Interpol, right? Like
Yes.
this only works in that scenario, right? So it's FUD. I mean, Fluffy denied it, right? He put out his own tweet thread saying, he absolutely has not participated with helping Interpol in any way. But even if he did, right? Even if he literally works for them, even if he's been working for them this entire time, even if he's been working for some other government agency, the way this technology works is that it's open source and vetted by the community and built out in the open, so nobody has an advantage compared to anybody else, right?
Mhm.
If there's any back door, supposedly that would have been vetted and discovered. So
Yes.
I mean, obviously he has more knowledge than 99.99% of all society in the topic of Monero, and it would certainly make sense to consult with him if you were trying to track and trace transactions, and that would make sense. But to suggest that he had, I don't know, he has some kind of like key, right? Some backdoor key, I think is it has nothing to do with whether or not Interpol tried to get him to go work for them, right? If there's a backdoor key, then that's a bigger issue, right? We should have been it should have been discovered.
And what he did in 2009, 2011 is not really related to what's happening now. So he's not being charged for something that he's done with Monero. And so he made a thread, and he said, "At no point have I ever met with and or helped a law enforcement agency or a government or an individual or government agency or a company or anyone to trace Monero." And he said that I remain willing to and excited to point any requester in the direction of resources like the Breaking Monero series published by the Monero community and researchers, because I can do nothing beyond that. And he doesn't even have access to Monero's code base, GitHub repo, website, Twitter account, DNS record, donated funds or anything at all. So he can't even.
Right, that would be the only thing that would be concerning, right? If he still had this higher access, or not this higher, but this access to commit, right, and maintain. and given these rumors, right, it just wouldn't make sense to have him in position. Like we're saying here, it ultimately doesn't matter.
Right.
We need to assume that he is working for Interpol, right? That's the assumption that needs to be made, and that the Monero ecosystem would thrive even in light of that.
And it's interesting that at his insistence, access to things like Monero's codebase will never be restored, and this is never. So he's just never going to have access to the codebase ever again. So yeah, you can do your own research if you don't believe him, but according to him,
yeah. But like we said, that shouldn't ultimately matter, right? Like,
right, then it doesn't matter. Right?
Anybody else can come along and offer to help assisting with developing Monero, right? And they could very well be a 3-letter agency that's asking, hey, we got some great ideas. We want you. Maybe you should add this to your next hard fork. It's going to make it more private and whatever. And maybe, but the idea is that would get vetted, right? And the rest of the community would decide if it's good tech or if it's tech that's going to ultimately hurt the nature of the utility that we're trying to build.
Yeah. And, like a truly decentralized project, it doesn't matter if one person is replaced. So whatever happens to Fluffy Pony in the end will not affect Monero. So that's one important factor.
Yeah, I feel bad for him that he has to put up with this kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done so much for Monero. There's these allegations against him, but certainly innocent till proven guilty, and have a lot of respect for everything he's done for Monero, for sure.
For sure. And someone wrote, not sure how I missed the story and how, what we discussed. And then he tweeted, you missed it because it's nonsense. So, yeah.
I miss Fluffy, man. The guy, he's so smart, so witty. He was a great spokesperson for Monero.
For sure. And he's funny. He's funny too.
Oh yeah, he's hilarious.
He's funny.
Personality.
Yeah.
All right.
But now we discussed this situation. Let's talk about CBDCs in Florida. So I'm going to play a minute of this video. Okay.
Has been introduced in the Florida legislature, and if they were to pass a bill, I would veto that bill. However, given the risks associated with the federally sanctioned centralized bank of digital currency, today I'm here to call on the legislature to pass legislation to expressly forbid the use of CBDC as money within Florida's Uniform Commercial Code. This will ensure that Florida continues to be a state that supports innovation in the financial sector through the market while protecting against government surveillance over your personal finances. But our legislation shouldn't stop there. Given the continued increase in Chinese influence in worldwide affairs and increase in plans to adopt CBDC worldwide, our legislation also prohibits any CBDC issued by a foreign reserve or government-sanctioned central bank. This will ensure that any effort to adopt a worldwide digital currency will never occur in the free state of Florida. And finally, I'm calling on like-minded states.
DeSantis is the mayor of Florida, and he's against CBDC.
Governor, yeah.
Which is amazing. So Florida is actually, good state to be in from the whole country. With DeSantis. So that's interesting, and that's really good to hear that he's taking a stance against CBDCs and things of this nature.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, is he just posturing? Is he controlled opposition, right? That's like the theory, right? And then they'll be like, he'll eventually be like, cave, and be like, well, I guess if we need to do the CB, he'll have a false debate, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Who knows? I don't think that's the case, though. I think he's a freedom-loving individual, and he's opposed to the country moving in this direction. So it's promising, because a step in that direction is a step in the direction of Monero, right? I mean, basically everything he's saying, his ideals in these terms, right? I'm not talking about other politics, but into the way he's talking about money, he's basically. He sounds like a Monero guy. right?
He does, yeah. He does.
So that's promising.
For sure. But I wonder like how a person like him is still in his position, because you'd guess, I hope he's genuine in his actions, but I wonder how he's still in that position after all the things that he's talking about. He's because he's anti-CBDC during COVID. He didn't really shut down Florida. So I'm curious of how he's still in that position, because you would guess that they'll try to get rid of him. Like this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Florida is just filled with liberty-loving people, man. So the democracy is working in Florida.
Yeah.
this guy's feeding into his people there, and I mean, you live in Florida, you know, right? You know much better than I do.
Yeah.
Liberty is in the air, just compared to places like New York. So
yeah,
I mean, he's going to be running for who knows? He might be the nominated presidential candidate for the Republican Party. So that would be
right.
That's exciting, right? That the
Yeah.
potential nominee and potential winner, right? The potential next president of the United States is out here, speaking out strongly against CBDCs. That's exciting.
Yes.
Exciting. I mean, what his true intentions are, what that actually means. Are they going to still slip it through in some other way? We had the Fed Now that launched a week ago. Like not the beginning of essentially a CBDC. It's not a blockchain based technology, so it's not CBDC in that respect. But does that ultimately evolve into what a CBDC is, right? A ledger that the Fed controls that everybody then uses directly. So I don't know, like he's out here being against CBDCs, but I didn't really listen to the whole thing. Does he talk about Fed Now? Probably not, right? I mean, and that just happened, right?
Yeah.
He's out there talking out against that and saying, is this? So there's a lot of that going on too, right? They might try to slip it in by another name, essentially. It may not come in the form of a CBDC. It may come in the form of Fed Now, right?
Yeah.
they got me to get those CBDCs. Meanwhile, everybody's linked directly with you have your essentially have your Fed Now wallet, right? So who knows? But exciting to see.
Yep, and someone wrote in the comments on YouTube, imagine Florida becomes the first state to recognize Monero as an official currency. That'll be interesting.
It's on track, right? It's on track. It's definitely far ahead of any other state in those terms. Way ahead of New York. You can't even purchase Monero in New York on a centralized exchange with KYC. There's no exchanges that offer Monero for sale with fiat.
Right.
Insane.
It is insane. And the reason why we don't like CBDC is written in this article. So essentially, you were going to be forced to spend money or forced to save money. They're going to essentially be able to change the interest rates really easily, to infiltrate negative interest rates if they want to. So CBDCs will create a dystopian nightmare, essentially. And this is what this article discussed. And talked about how during the financial crisis of 2007, 2008, that's when people started to lose trust in traditional finance institutions. And that's where they turned towards crypto. In the beginning it was Bitcoin. Now people are starting to discover Monero. But the thing is with CBDCs that they will be fully traceable, and that central banks will be able to surveil and control financial transactions. They'll be able to tell you how much you can spend in a single day, which is all things that nobody, I think, really wants. And this is all in the name of AML, of regulating crime and terrorism. But of course, it's used to really control humanity. And now let's talk about Nigeria. So Nigeria, with Naira, a couple months ago, their CBDC had a 0.5% usage overall because nobody wanted to use it. And now they just took away a lot of cash in Nigeria, so that now there's a cash shortage, and the usage of the Naira is up to 63%.
There you go.
0.5 to 63%.
That's what we're talking about, right? That's what that was the comments we were making back then, right? Is they'll figure out how to push people into it.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's always so interesting to talk about CBDCs and countries, because we talked about this a couple months ago, and I was thinking where this is going to lead. And then we talked about how, they're probably going to introduce a cash shortage.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing it.
Yeah. Textbook.
Yeah. So, but that's what they're going to do.
It is very exciting to see, though, right? We said, we have DeSantis out there, right? Like, this guy is potentially going to be the president of the United States. It's not that far fetched, and he's out there speaking out against CBDCs. And we have this great awareness globally. There's this awareness of CBDCs and people being opposed to it.
Yeah,
like we said, they'll figure out if they need. They'll figure out ways to do it. But I think it is exciting to see that there is this opposition, right? And it's building, and that gets people closer to Monero, to realizing the importance of Monero, right? Because you're like, if you're concerned about CBDCs, it's because you don't want the government to control how you use your money, right? You don't want them to surveil it, right? And that's what people are realizing. And so once you have that realization, then you have to then your next step is looking around for the thing that will prevent that, right? If CBDs don't, so like, what are you doing? Oh, well, I'm just gonna. You realize, wait a minute, even when I'm using the traditional credit, forget CBDCs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're like kind of already on a CBDC. We're all using credit cards and Venmo, and it's all tied into, it's a couple of corporations that are colluding, that are giving all the information to governments. Wait a minute. And then you're like, all right, well, what could I move into? I can move into Bitcoin, right? And then the next realization is, wait a minute, it's a completely transparent ledger, right? So it's the masses. It does feel like people's eyes are really opening up to these concepts of being, realizing that they're being mass surveilled, and are concerned about that they'll be mass surveilled in terms of how they use their money, even though they already are, right? But CBDCs is even more obvious because it's potentially or not potentially, it is programmable. But hey, that's what, like, Bitcoin, it's not programmable per se, but if you can figure out everybody that's using it and track and trace them thereafter, it could effectively become programmable. When you go to make your purchase and you're trying to buy your quota of meat and you're getting denied because every e-commerce system has built into it something that's looking at where transactions are coming from, and like, wait a minute, this guy already we're checking the Bitcoin ledger, looks like Doug Tuman already met his quota of beef, right? Like that. Did they program Bitcoin? No, but they attacked, they basically used Bitcoin's shortcoming, which is its transparent ledger, to effectively have that same effect. So I think people will come to this realization.
For sure.
Exciting.
And we've already had the CBDC in the past, like during communism, and we had it in Romania. You would have had tickets, and then you had to write what's your address, where did you buy the meat from, how much meat did you buy more than, and you had to write the specific amount, like how many grams or how many pounds, kilograms,
Right.
Had this before, and now we've got credit cards, which is, now you can buy as much meat as you want, pretty much. I mean, some stores say, just buy like 2 packs and then you can just go back in the parking lot and go back in and buy 2 more. But soon it's going to be really way worse. And like Doug said, you'll be able to only buy so much. And if you try to buy more, they'll know, and you'll be declined. So
right, your carbon footprint will be attached to your Bitcoin wallet, right?
Exactly. And it sounds great, this is for the environment, this is for criminals. But at the end of the day, they're doing all these things, and you're left with a transparent house where they can see what you do in your own house. So. Exactly. But now let's talk about Ethereum to Monero swaps and the fact that the beta for the mainnet is coming soon, which is really exciting. So we have Bitcoin to Monero. Now we're gonna have Ethereum to Monero. So it's always important, in case you can't get Monero, like in New York, for example, you can buy Bitcoin, you can buy Ethereum, and then you can just swap it into Monero. which is very important for the ecosystem and to make sure that you're always going to be able to get Monero. So this is huge, and it's really good news.
Yeah, super big news, and that's Elizabeth Ethereum, and she's going to be at Monerotopia.
Yes, she is. Yeah, that's
Sounds
awesome.
like she's right on track for releasing, the main net during Monerotopia, right? She said like a month away, like a little, right? So we're right there, a few weeks away. She might do it on stage. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, last year she did it on stage, but she just tested something on stage. So it's awesome that this year we're gonna have hopefully the actual,
release.
Release. Yeah, that'll be so cool. It's gonna be really cool. So now we talked about Fluffy Pony and Monero. We talked about DeSantis and his stance on CBDCs, and we talked about CBDCs. But now you probably want to meet up with people that are into Monero or that are into liberty-loving principles. So you can actually go to Chicago and join the meetup of Vic and Justin. They've become the organizers of the Monero meetup group, which is really cool. So you can check out the link, and they have food and drinks provided by Kick Wallet, which is very sweet. And now for a follow-along exercise, do it alongside me. So you're going to type monerotopia.com. Beautiful. Now you're going to see buy ticket. Do as I do now. You got to click on buy ticket. Now we're going to go up. You're going to click on buy GA tickets. Beautiful. Now in the same time, 1, 2, 3, 4, add to cart. Nice. Okay. View cart. And then you put in Tony.
Someone did use Tony yesterday.
We've had a few Tonys.
Oh, that's awesome. You got to get 10% off your ticket.
It's the best discount code by far. Nobody's forgetting that one.
I know. But yeah, I got it the other day. I was laughing, actually.
We gave you a jump. Oh, wait, we added, do proceed to checkout for a sec.
Okay.
So obviously we have the Monero gateway. We prefer that you use that to make your purchase. We have now payments if you want to pay in some other crypto, and that will automatically send it to us in Monero. But we added cash at door, right? So that they're in order of preference, right? So if you're somebody that just wants to pay cash, we'll figure that out with you. That's fine. You can do that. But we also reluctantly added a credit card, but I don't want to. There's a lot of noobs out there, man, that don't have any crypto, right?
Yeah.
They don't have any crypto. So I don't want to prevent them from buying, because cash at door, it won't work we added a virtual ticket option, right? So cash at door would have worked even if you wanted to come down general admission, but we added the credit card if there's somebody that wants to buy a virtual conference ticket and is a complete noob and doesn't have crypto. So that's cool. So they can
awesome. Yeah. So now you can spend your Monero, you can spend other cryptos, you can do cash at door, which a lot of conferences don't even do.
Hang out with Tony.
And then you get 10% off of all these options with code Tony. So
yeah, we reluctantly add the credit card, but yeah, especially if we're trying to push the virtual ticket. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't even really have crypto, man. All right, cool, man. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. This concludes this week's news section. The links will be in the description if you want to look more into Fluffy Pony situation, DeSantis, and all these links. And as always, we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you, Tony. See you next week, or we'll talk next week. Bye. We'll miss you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay.
And
so
I guess we will. We still have privacy data up there.
I believe so.
Privacy data.
Yeah, still here.
Any comments on the news? Anything particular that stuck out to you?
No, that's very specific stuff that I don't have a strong opinion on.
What's your take on CBDCs? Have you been?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't like that idea at all. I understand why that's a problem.
Do you think it could, like I was saying, potentially be an eye opener for people towards Monero, right? So if they're having this realization that CBDCs are bad, could it?
I don't know. I think people go for convenience.
They definitely do. Do. But CBDCs is potentially more convenient than anything we've ever had.
Yeah,
yet
that's
we're
why
still-
I think.
Yeah, we're seeing a backlash, is what I'm saying.
Well, how would a normal user see the backlash?
How would a normal user
Like a person who doesn't listen to shows like this.
Oh, because you have DeSantis that just gave a speech on how he's opposed to CBDCs, right? So I'm saying it's entering the mainstream. This
the
idea.
discussion of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's big. You know, he's potentially going to be the presidential candidate. He could win office, and here he is. He's out here talking against CBDCs. So I'm just, if he's saying these things, it's because he thinks it's going to help him, right? He thinks that this is the ideas that others will agree with, right? That the masses will potentially agree with. So that's what I was saying. In that sense, is that then maybe get us closer to the masses realizing the importance of crypto, but maybe
there's a few skeptical comments in the chat I see about that.
Let me see. What are they saying?
Well, that once you get into power, you join the flock again.
Oh, you mean in terms of DeSantis?
Yeah, that people say things, but maybe aren't able to execute them when they.
Oh, yeah. No, but I'm saying even ignoring that, right? He's saying these things because obviously he thinks it's good for polling, right? He thinks it's
yeah.
So if that means that he thinks that there is this zeitgeist out there of people being concerned about this, and I'm just saying if that's out there, maybe that also means they'll start to think about these larger ideas.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm just extrapolating too far.
I don't know a lot of people that know about them, to be honest, CBDCs.
Yeah, well, it's good. If DeSantis is out there talking about it, I think people are waking up. Obviously, we're still very early, but that's promising. I never would have guessed that one of the presidential candidates up and coming would start. That would be part of their platform.
Yeah,
it's the CBDCs. So
that's a good development.
Yeah, it's a good development. All right, man. We I think we'll close it out, right? Yeah. We'll go eat dinner. We're running on fumes right now. Thank you so much, Privacy Dad.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Cool.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you to everybody else that helped us out today, that jumped on the show. Thank you, Bawdy. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, DGoon. Thank you, Freeport, for also being a special guest as well. And we will see you next week, probably back at our regular scheduled 11 a.m. Eastern time on
Unless
Saturdays.
We have something going on then.
We
I'm just
never
kidding.
know.
Yeah, we never know. As of right now, I think it's set, guys.
All right, cheers. Yeah, we're not going to jump into the spaces today. There's only a few people in there. What's up, people in the spaces? Sorry, we're not going to do the Q&A in spaces next time. Next time we will do that.
All righty.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Privacy Dad. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Privacy.
Bye. Okay, so let's end the show right now. Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week.